Good day, everyone. Such a pleasure to be with you once again as we joyfully share on God's Word. We can never exhaust God's Word. There is always something there for us to feed our spirit, to feed our spiritual life, something that is timely, some message that God has for us at this point in our lives. It's interesting, the readings that we have this weekend. The first taken from 1 Samuel, which deals with the call of Samuel. You know that famous reading where God calls him 3 times, and each time he goes to Eli, and Eli says, "Don't worry, go back to sleep." And by the 3rd time, Eli realized that this is serious business. God is really calling you, so listen to God and open yourself to His Word. Our second reading taken from 1 Corinthians, where Paul speaks about having respect for your body and having respect for other people's body as well. It's a temple of the Holy Spirit. And our gospel reading taken from John's Gospel, which deals with the call of the disciples. And it seems very timely, coming after the Christmas season, to speak about God's call to us. We have had the Christmas event, the birth of Christ. Well, now He's calling you to respond to that event in your own personal way. Our first reading focuses on, as I said, the call of Samuel. And Samuel is the subject of great discourse in the Old Testament. He's a towering figure. Not since Moses did Israel have such a commanding person, a man of faith who responded to God's call. He is one of the greatest leaders of Israel. He responded to God's call at a time of national crisis. He was the man for the job, so to speak. And my question is, what does that mean, the man for the job? Well, he or she is the type of person who is best suited to respond to some urgent need, whether in a company, a community, a church, or on the national level. It means that you have some particular skill set for a certain piece of work. So we often question whether our political leaders, for instance, is the person for the job. Here in Canada, is Catherine Wynne the person for the job? Is John Tory the person for the job? Is Trudeau the person for the job? Back in Trinidad and Tobago, is Rowley the man for the job? Is Colm Ilmbe, our Minister of Finance, the man for the job? Are you the person for the job? Because make no bones about it, we all exercise some level of leadership wherever you find yourself. In your place of work, or in your home, or among friends. We all exercise some influence over others. Well, Samuel was the man for the job. Israel at this time was a loose association of tribes, and they faced the threat of the Philistines, a superior military power, who became established on the west coast of Palestine, and they were gradually moving north and moving east, encroaching on Israelite land, Israelite territory. He was that rare leader who combined astute leadership with moral principles. Today in our world, that type of leader is rare or probably non-existent. Our leaders today make compromises to win votes and to stay in power. We find too that the way that leadership is exercised today, there are a great deal of temptations. And I'm talking about exercising leadership anywhere, in any particular location. Do you try, for instance, as a parent, to be your child's friend? Or do you stand up for what is right and impose limits and restrictions on them to teach them discipline? Do you try to be Mr. or Mrs. Popularity at your place of work? Or do you refuse to engage in in office gossip, making remarks against a colleague which is denigrating to them or to someone who is being bullied. Today in the entertainment industry, not only in the US but in several other places, women have decided to stand up against predatory men at the risk of damaging their careers. As if anticipating this, we find that in the second reading, St. Paul talking about having respect against the body in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Those who disrespect their bodies or other persons' bodies, Paul says that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit and should be treated as such. So to treat one's body or another person's body as merely a sexual object is sinful. In the gospel reading, the call is issued to John, to Simon, and 2 other disciples. Now notice that Jesus calls them by name. A call is a very particular individual thing, and it requires an individual response. It is a call first to belong to Christ. Come follow me, come walk with me, come abide with me, come be with me. What he calls you to is another matter, but first he calls you to himself. And I always tell people that it is not limited to evangelism. It is everything necessary to make the world the way that God intended it to be. And it can be in any place. It can be the church, it can be the workplace, it can be the home. And it can fall into any category as well. The New Testament speaks of working for justice, healing, reconciliation, compassion, kindness, humility, and patience in Colossians 3. Verse 12, a paralyzed patient lying on a bed with only the ceiling to stare at is responding to God's call and witnessing by their patience. And so is a family taking care of a demented friend or a demented parent or grandparent or a special needs child. During the Christmas holidays, I sent 150 Canadian dollars to an elementary school in Sierra Leone. The principal took the money and bought chalk and erasers for each teacher. He also bought 1 pencil and notebook for each student, because in some classes, 1 pencil is shared among all 30, 35, 40 students in the class. So having your own pencil and your own notebook apparently is a big thing, something that we take for granted in our own part of the world. And on Christmas morning, the principal sent me a text message. When I opened the message, it was a video of all the children lining up with their pencils and their copybooks and waving them and saying, "Thank you, Mr. Roger." It was the best Christmas gift that I have received in a very, very long time. In the final analysis, your response to God's call comes from within. It is who you are. It is your character. In the case of Samuel, he showed certain characteristics which made him respond to God's call in a total way. He really loved God. He looked after his people in a very passionate way. He had an uncompromising simplicity and directness, and he persevered in service, never giving up. Most of all, he had a certain moral integrity. As he says here in 1 Samuel chapter 1, Samuel said to all Israel, "I have listened to everything you said to me, and have set a king over you. Now you have a king as your leader. As for me, I am old and gray, and my sons are here with you. I have been your leader from my youth until this day. Here I stand. Testify against me in the presence of the Lord and his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Whose donkey have I taken? Whom have I cheated? Whom have I oppressed? From whose hand have I accepted a bribe to make me shut my eyes? If I have done any of these things, I will make it right. And the people answered, you have not cheated or oppressed us. You have not taken anything from anyone's hands. My dear friends, let us make Samuel's response to God's call our response to God's call. Let us follow him with integrity and humility as he calls each one of us. God bless you, and Happy New Year to you all.